we all were watching The Last Dance, because we had nothing else. So, it was a very interesting documentary. How did you enjoy the documentary? Then I want to ask you about Mike.
I enjoyed the documentary, man. I mean, being in this pandemic, right? It was like a breath of fresh air. It was like somebody trying to breathe, And for me, I was like, wow, because it brings back a time that I truly enjoy. I truly enjoy excellence. I wanted to see them go for 7. I don't know if they could have won 7.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, Mike thinks that, if they all got the band together, they could have won a 7. What do you think?
Well, let me say, and that's why Michael, I always say Michael is me 100 times better. Right? And because I used to always think of myself, no matter when I was on the court, who I was on the court with, I don't care who it was. And I could have watched Dr. J for a long time, but you put me on the court with him, I'm thinking like I'm the best player on this court. Right? Man, I was trying out for, I think, the Sacramento Kings and Michael Jordan's rookie year.
Yeah.
And we playing in preseason, and Reggie Theus was guarding Michael. And in that first quarter, I was sitting on the bench. I was like, oh, my God. That guy is 100 times better than me. He's like the first guy I looked out there and said, oh, that guy's a problem. And what he was doing to Reggie Theus, I was like,
Reggie Theus is an all-star. He's no bum.
Yeah. Mike was just a rookie, and I was like, man, I ain't going in there. I was like, no. Coach called me, no. So I'm like, what? Like, get Reggie. I'm like, oh, no. Don't put me in the game, Coach. There's got to be some prerequisites before I go in this game. Let me ask you a question.
Did you ever face Mike on the floor?
I did. I actually went in and guarded him. I mean, and I asked the question before I go in the game. I said, look, Coach, back in the day, he's walking me to the table. So I'm like, Coach, back in the day, when you get a guy who's doing what he's doing, right, sometimes it's not the best defense, it's the best offense, right?
Tire him out on the other side.
Yeah, so when I go in this game and he takes me, because he has a green light to take me, because he's been taking everybody since the game started, do I get to take him back? He said, no, I just want you to play defense. I said, no, I don't really want to go in there. Because, see, I was ready for a shootout at the OK Corral. I'm like, you taking me, I am taking you. You know what I'm saying? I can't guard you, and you can't guard me. Yeah, Mike's competitive. I mean, we honored Denzel Washington a few years back. National Boys and Girls Club, my local Boys and Girls Club at the Waldorf Astoria. Everybody was there. You name a person, they were there for Denzel being honored. And at the post party, Michael and I, Leon the actor, Leon, Michael, Angela Bassett, Wesley Snipes, me and my wife. So we there. And so Leon, who was in Mount Vernon too, he's from Mount Vernon. His mom lives in Mount Vernon. I mean, he didn't go to school here, but so he says to Michael, he said, hey, Mike, Lowe's, you know Lowe's? He's like, yeah, I know Lowe's. So he's like, Lowe's is like David Thompson. He said, what? Oh, yeah? David Thompson was my idol. I was like, he said, no, Mike, Lowe's could get you like that. And so Mike like, what? So we in tuxedos. So Mike like, what? Like that. And I was like, what? So we both wasn't, and I said, you do know I run a Boys and Girls Club, right? We can go there now. And he said, yeah, we can go there right now. So we going back and forth. I mean, we literally like, I'm looking up at him, he's looking down at me, and I'm like, yeah, man, we could do this right now, man. I don't have no problem with this. Let's go. Like that, And then he just stopped me. He said, I got a lot to lose, right? I was like, yeah, you do. Like that. So then he said, all right, man. So he kind of like, and so I was heated. My wife was like, go over there, man. My wife was like, yeah, get out of here. So he looks at my wife and he says, your husband's a good man. And she said, oh, yeah, he's a very good man. Good man, great man. Like that. I'm a better one. I mean, that's how competitive he is, and, I tell people about Michael and why I think he's the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time because of this simple fact that for every second, every minute, every quarter, overtime, I've never seen a guy play with the same energy, same intensity, right? Every night, every game for an entire career.
Never took a night off.
Never. For the mere fact that he said, I play for that one person who never seen Michael Jordan play before.
And have you ever met a person who was so focused on winning? I mean, this guy, and he even played mind tricks with himself to motivate himself. Like the story about LeBradford Smith, I thought was one of the funniest things ever. The man had a nice game against him, and never even, they said that he never said, nice game, Mike. They said it never even happened, but that became legend, and Michael goes and lights him up for like 40 in the first half.
Well, it's something my coach said to me when I was a little kid. One of the first things he said to me, and I couldn't get it at first. He said the game of basketball, after you're in shape and after you understand the game, is 99.9% mental. Mm-hmm. Right? So the mind of Michael Jordan far superseded his physical ability.
And his physical ability was top notch.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean,
but his mind was better.
I mean, we look at skills between, Michael Jordan and LeBron James is not even skills. Jordan's skilled, and yeah, I mean, but then when you take his mind, because that was always my focus, is the reason why I can still do what some of the things I do has nothing to do with my body, right? It has everything to do with what's in my head.
I wanted to talk about Phil. Now, Phil, coach of the Albany Patroons, you played under Phil. Now, we know that Phil had great players in the NBA, but his skill was getting them all together. I mean, how do you rein in a Dennis Rodman, to play with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen? How do you get all those other players to buy in? How do you get Shaq and Kobe to play together in LA? So it's obviously, Phil has some sort of greatness as a coach. I'm wondering, that's his early career in Albany. Did you see that developing?
Well, if you know a little bit of history of Phil, coming out of Montana, and his father being a Pentecostal minister. He's a pastor, Pentecostal pastor. So you take the whole spiritual side of it. And then if you look at, he grew up in around native lands. So you take in a Native American culture, just dealing with spiritual, whatever they was doing, spiritual stuff as well. And then you take a guy, coming to the Knicks and going to Woodstock, right? And I'm free, flower child, whatever. I'm free. and I don't know what he was doing out there, you know. But
there were no cameras, so
yeah, when I met Phil, man, you know, you have to look at all he had encompassed because he was my assistant coach when I got drafted by the Nets my rookie year. So he was there, and you listen to some of the things that he was saying at the time, and then you come to the Albany Patroons, and even before then too, in the summer times, Phil used to coach in Puerto Rico. So imagine going to Puerto Rico, having to communicate with people who don't
Spanish.
speak English well. So yeah, and then Phil's this cerebral guy. So he's this relaxed, calm, laid back guy, you know, what we call as a player's coach. You know, he's gonna raise his voice, you know, occasionally if it's loud, but for no other reason is he going to raise his mouth, but he's gonna make a point, right? And so Phil was evolving. And the thing is the CBA was a prototype of misfits. We were messed up, man. I mean, you know, but yet in the midst of all those personalities, he figured out a way to make us work together and end up winning a CBA championship. And, you know, I was kind of that stabilizing force, you know, of the team. And Phil and his hanging buddy from Woodstock, Charlie Rosen, who wrote books, Phil's book and some other thing. He was there, a little crazy, but he was there. And they listened to the Grateful Dead on every road trip. And, you know, just some wild stuff. But he was able to manage people. And only person I thought was in comparison to Phil, and Phil succeeded him, was Chuck Daly. And I tried out with the Detroit Pistons. I really liked him a lot because he managed people. You know, today is not about coaching, it's about how you manage people.
Especially at that level.
Yeah, and then when you get guys like Rodman and you know, you mentioned a bunch of guys, but just to take that Chicago Bulls team, right? And think about what Phil was able to do. You know, take all that Zen Buddhism and the spiritual stuff, and you got some grown men getting paid more than you, sitting on the floor with your legs crossed. Got them reading books they had never read. You know, got them meditating, right? Which means he didn't address them from a physical standpoint. He addressed them from a mental standpoint.